Good afternoon and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of International Falls for January the 2nd, 2018. I ask you to all rise and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would ask the City Administrator to note the roll call with all members of the Council present. Move to the agenda, and we have two additions to the consent agenda for your consideration. Approving the IRS mileage reimbursement for travel expenses for anyone in the city, and then approving the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust Liability Coverage Waiver Form for tort liability. With those additions, with your pleasure with the agenda.
Move.
Motion by Councillor Jacksaw to approve the agenda with the additions.
Second.
Second by Councillor Briggs. Discussion on the motion or the agenda? Question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Agenda is approved with the additions. Thank you. We'll move to the minutes of the December 18, 2017 City Council meeting. Motion by Councillor Briggs to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second by Councillor Jacksaw. Discussion on the motion or the minutes? Hearing none. Question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Minutes for December 18th are approved. Thank you. We'll move to the payment of claims and transfers, and we have to the fund number 101 of the general fund from the lodging tax fund, $227.76. Accounts payable claims for the City of International Falls, $266,072.51. Airport Commission claims of $68,931.38, and terminal project claims at the airport of $141,673.91. Your pleasure with the resolution to approve the transfers and the payment of claims.
I'll move on the resolution.
Motion by Councillor Droba to adopt the resolution.
Whoops.
Second.
Second by Councillor Briggs. Discussion on the motion or the resolution? Hearing no discussion. Question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Resolution is adopted. Approval is given for the transfers and the payment of the accounts payable claims. Thank you. Anyone in the audience that wishes to approach the council at this time? There'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting for that to occur. Hearing none, we'll move to the public hearing and have the first reading of the ordinance of the 5th series to amend the Code of Ordinances by repealing or amending the existing fees and establishing a new fee schedule for water rates, building and zoning permit fees.
As the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, I would move this ordinance forward at this time.
Second.
Motion by Councillor Droba and second by Councillor Jacksaw to have the first reading of the ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances on the amending the existing fees and establishing new fee schedule for water rates and building and zoning permit fees. Discussion on the resolution. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. The ordinance was discussed briefly at a Budget and Finance Committee held this afternoon. So there were some adjustments made to the building permit fees, and in the interim, that is between the start of this meeting and the end of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, staff had prepared some revisions, so I'll just pass those out for the council to have. And just want to make it a record that the motion was to approve as amended in this particular form. Is that all you got?
Do you have more copies?
Yeah.
I kept one.
You kept one?
Kept two, actually.
Quick work, Ken. Quick work.
The building official worked on it, so
There is one change on here that was moved earlier that isn't, on the signs requiring the structural review, it was $100 plus a $1 state filing fee. It's $1 off. It's a big deal.
So you note Councilor Droba as chair, the sign
Requiring structural review.
is a $100 plus $1
State filing fee, yeah.
state filing fee? Further discussions with regard to the change in building permit fees and water rate increases.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I would just like
Councilor
to,
Droba.
I would just like to note that we also, at our Budget and Finance Committee meeting, heard the concerns of the mayor and council of Rainier on the prices of the water rates there. They are getting charged in the third tier, the same as the other outside large water users. And they gave a pretty good reasoning on their concerns on why they should be the same as the same tier water users in the city of International Falls. However, we need to do what's best for the city of International Falls and our residents, and so we're adopting this as written.
I thought that the city administrator made a good point, though, that we're only charging them a base rate once, where they did ask, they thought that they should be charged for each of the individual. Well, if you were going to do that, you would charge 450 times the base rate. And so I think that they're receiving a fair increase in the water rates that are being charged. Well, we haven't done a in-depth discussion or in-depth study on water rates throughout the state. I think that Councilor Jackson, you made the point that most everyone outside of the city has an increase, and so I think that we would be giving someone outside the city the same rate as we're charging those large water users in the city.
Correct.
Further questions or discussion?
Take these two topics separately, or we have to do?
Well, I think I would ask the motion is to adopt the fee schedule for both. Now, I guess you could certainly ask for a division if you would desire that.
All right, I would amend my amendment to, or amend my motion to only look at the building and zoning permit fees at this time.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion then to have the first reading of the ordinance to adopt the building permit fee schedule as proposed by the committee. And second by Councilor Jackson. Discussion with regard to just those fees. And those haven't been increased
Years.
since
40 years.
1979.
39 years, okay.
Since 1979. So we're further behind most every city, if not every city in the state.
And Mr. Mayor, I think that the housing inspector said, or building inspector said that some people have even laughed at our fees. They're so low.
Very well stated. Hearing no further discussion? Question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. There being 4 for the motion and 1 against, the motion carries, and the first reading of the ordinance to amend the building and permit fee schedule is approved. Thank you.
I voted for that despite the fact I wanted the fees to be higher, so.
And the motion would be on the water rates.
I again would make a motion to accept the water rates as discussed at our our budget and finance meeting earlier this day.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councillor Droba, second by Councillor Pearson to have the first reading of the ordinance to amend the existing fees and establish a new fee schedule for water rates for 2018 and 2019 for city residents and non-resident customers. Discussion on the motion or the resolution.
Well, it's been a lot of discussion and study, and we've arrived at the point. I think we've all done our due diligence. We've spent many hours in meetings. I think we've arrived here with a lot of forethought and due diligence.
Yes, Councillor Droba.
And it's not this council that spent the time either. It was the administration, the staff, our Don Kosek giving us all the information to do it. And I think we're all aware, none of us really want to raise water rates. That's not what we want to do. However, we do have to afford what we do, and we have a water treatment plant that needs to continue running. We do need to take care of our infrastructure, and we did everything we could to make this a modest increase for a vast majority of the people. So.
I would just add to that, Councillor Droba, that we have not had a water or sewer fee increase in 3 years. Was the last
2 years.
2 years since the last increase? I thought it was 3.
1 and 15.
January 1st of 2015 was the last time the rates were increased, effective on January 1st of 2015.
So there was an increase in 15, so there wasn't any in 16 and 17. 2 years, thank you. So there was no fee increase in the last 2 years. And also, I think, to, I guess, accommodate the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, and their conservation rate that they wish all cities to adopt, needed to take and change how we charge for water in the city of International Falls, and so that has also been included in this water rate study. Further discussion? Hearing none, the question then on the first reading of the ordinance to adopt the new water rates for 2018 and 2019?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. There being all 5 members of the council voting in favor of that first reading of the ordinance, it is adopted. Thank you. And move to the consent agenda, and there are 5 items on the consent agenda. First of all, we have 2018 license renewal for Cine 5, a restaurant and a theater license. Item number 2 under the consent agenda is to approve the travel and continuing education training expenses for Kelly Myers, the building inspector, to attend the Upper Great Plains Region 3 Educational Institute and the Energy Design Conference and quarterly Arrowhead Chapter Building Officials meeting. Third, to approve the travel and training expenses for the Street Commissioner Ted Brokaw to attend various conferences and seminars in 2018. Item 4 is to approve the IRS mileage rate reimbursement rate for 2018. And item number 5 is to approve the League of Minnesota Cities liability coverage waiver form to not waive limits on the municipal tort liability and to authorize the signatures. Pleasure with the consent agenda.
Move on the consent agenda.
By Councilor
I'll
Droba, second by Councilor Jacksaw to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor, or motion, Chair would call the question on the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes, motion is carried, consent agenda is approved. Thank you. We'll move to new business, and we have the item number 1 is the approval of the payroll dates bi-weekly on Tuesdays commencing with January 2 of 2018. Motion by Councilor Briggs to adopt the payroll dates.
Second.
Second by Councilor Jacksaw. Discussion on the motion or the payroll dates. Question?
Aye. Aye.
And aye.
Yes, motion is carried, and the approval of the payroll dates is approved. Thank you. Item number 2 under new business is the resolution with for the designation of depositors in the City of International Falls. Those would include the Bremer Bank, the Bremer Investment Management and Trust, Wells Fargo, and Border State Bank, Edward Jones, and the Minnesota Municipal Money Market Fund. I guess that's part of Edward Jones, the Minnesota Municipal Money Market Fund. With that, your pleasure with the resolution to name those depositories of city monies.
Move.
Motion by Councilor Jacksaw.
Second.
Second by Councilor Pearson. Discussion on the motion or the resolution.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
I would point out that the Minnesota Municipal Money Market Fund, which is also known as the 4M Fund, is something administered through the so it is separate from Edward
Separate,
Jones.
okay.
And quite frankly, this is the first year that we have an official depository. So we want to have the option to shop to them as well, and they do as depository for Minnesota.
Can you give us a little more information on, so the League of Minnesota Cities has established a money market fund that cities can invest funds in?
There's a program fund has different authorized investments, and the state of Minnesota limits what we can invest public monies in. There's authorized expenditures. Federal treasuries would be one example. There are certain collateral requirements. The 4M fund is just another avenue that we can access to invest city monies, and we would try to seek the largest return on our investment, highest interest rate that we can get. And we've been receiving notification. The finance officer and myself met with Corey from the 4M fund, was up here. We had met with him in early December or the end of some information from us. For us, there's actually a resolution that was submitted to participate in that program.
And the state authorizing that, that still requires the money market fund to have collateral for the city funds?
Yes.
Great, very good. We have a motion by Councilor Jacksaw and second by Councilor Pearson to approve those depositories. Further discussion on the motion to adopt the resolution. None, question.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes, motion is carried and the resolution is adopted designating those depositories of city monies. Thank you. Item number 3 is a designation of the official newspaper for required publications. That would be the Journal, the International Falls Journal.
So moved.
Motion by Councillor Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Councillor Droba. Question on the motion or the official newspaper? One question.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion is carried, and the International Falls Journal is designated as the official newspaper. Thank you. Item number 4 under new business is the appointment of members to committees, boards, and commissions. You have that list in your packet, and the first one is to the Fire and Civil Service Commission, the reappointment of Mr. Mike Rudd to a 3-year term.
So moved.
Motion by Councillor Droba to concur with that appointment. For a second. Second by Councillor Briggs. Discussion on the motion or the reappointment? None question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion is carried. Reappointment is approved. On the Housing and Redevelopment Commission, I would reappoint Ms. Barbara Albert to a 5-year term. Motion by Councillor Briggs,
Second.
second by Councillor Droba. Discussion? Question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion is carried. Reappointment is approved, thank you. Reappointment to the Library Board of Mr. Ted Saxton. Motion by Councillor Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Councillor Droba. Discussion? Question?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, motion is carried. Reappointment of Mr. Ted Saxton is approved. And to the Library Board, reappointment of Mr. Paul Nevenin to a 3-year term. Motion by Councillor Briggs to concur.
Second.
Second by Councillor Pearson. Discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Please.
you know, Paul Nevenin is a great resource. It just troubles me that he's on almost every commission. And what troubles me about it is we're not really reaching out to the community in my mind. We get the same people in. I don't know if that's healthy. Did he really want this reappointment, or?
I asked every individual, and I got a letter from the librarian that she wished us to reappoint these 2 individuals.
Anyway, you know my concern. It's not a reflection on Paul. It's just a reflection on the fact that he's on your list here 3 times. Or twice? Well, he's on the Airport Commission.
Twice.
Yeah. So he's on at least 3 commissions I know of. But, okay.
Further discussion? Question?
Aye.
Aye, I guess.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Reappointment is approved. Planning Commission, reappointment of Ms. Julie Ehrman. Motion by Councillor Briggs,
Second.
second by Councillor Droba to concur with the reappointment. Discussion? Question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Reappointment is approved. Second to the Planning Commission is the reappointment of Mr. Peter Schultz to a 3-year term. Motion by Councillor Briggs. Second by Councillor Pearson. Discussion? Question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Reappointment is approved. And to the Planning Commission, Mr. Paul Nevenin.
I'll move.
Motion by Councillor Droba.
Second.
Second by Councillor Pearson. Discussion? Question?
Aye.
No.
I'll vote yes. There being 4-4 and 1 against, the concurrence of the reappointment of Mr. Paul Nevenin is approved. Thank you. The Police Civil Service Commission, reappointment of Mr. David Peterson.
So moved.
Motion by Counselor Droba. Second by Counselor Pearson. Discussion on the 3-year term reappointment of Mr. David Peterson. Hearing none, question.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried, and the concurrence is approved. And the Zoning Board of Appeals, the reappointment of Mr. Clint Chase to a 5-year term. By Counselor Briggs. Second by Counselor Pearson. Discussion? Question.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Reappointment is approved. Thank you. Also have at your place, it was not in your packet, I apologize, and that's the item number 5 on the new business, and that's the appointment of the Fire Relief Association members. And pursuant to the Minnesota statute, I would appoint myself as the elected official to that Fire Relief Association, the city administrator, Mr. Ken Anderson, as a appointed official from the city, and Fire Chief Adam Manassa. The statute, which is attached, outlines that there's a 9-member board of trustees for the Fire Relief Association. 3 of them must be from the city, and 6 elected by the members of the Relief Association. And so outline that for you. Would ask your concurrence with those appointments.
So moved.
Motion by Counselor Droba. Second by Counselor Pearson. Discussion.
What do you guys do?
Review the finances of the Fire Relief Association, whether or not there's
Adequate.
justification, adequate funds to pay out for retirees, retired members. And so
It's a pension oversight, sort of.
the monies come from the insurance. There's a 2%
That's correct.
from the fire insurance premiums that are paid in International Falls for that.
That's correct. So
Just International Falls?
no, it's a statewide pension plan, so the state of Minnesota. Across the state, those are then redistributed per capita to each department.
Do you meet once a year? Or?
We have to, or by bylaws, we have to meet 4 times a year.
Yeah, I just never really knew what the word was.
It's not a secret society.
No, I know. And I knew it had to do with pension, but I didn't, since it's established by the state, and the state notifies you when you need to assess more, I always wondered exactly what you did.
Well, part of that is the board's decision, so that's the justified as far as the board makes the decision whether it wants to set those pensions each year.
Thank you.
I think most of it's outlined in that statute that's attached to the... Further discussion on the motion to approve the appointments of the Fire Relief Association members for the city. Hearing none, question?
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion is carried. Appointments are approved for this year. It's an annual reappointment. We'll move to item 6 on the agenda for new business, and that's to adopt a resolution approving the application for an exempt permit to the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association Trails End Chapter to conduct a raffle to be held on April the 6th, 2018 at the Bacchus Community Building. Motion by Councillor Briggs to adopt that resolution.
Second.
Second by Councillor Pearson. Discussion on the motion or the resolution? Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Resolution is adopted, and the application for the exempt permit is approved. Thank you. Item number 7 is to authorize the police department to seek quotes for the acquisition of 2 2018 police package patrol vehicles, one being a sedan and the other being an SUV. Chief Maston is sick today and is not at the meeting, and so City Administrator, do you have any comments on that?
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's just the beginning of the budget year, and it takes some period of time to receive the vehicles, and then they have to be built out with cages and lights and that type of thing. So he's asking for permission from the council to seek quotes. Typically, we get our dealerships, and then we'll bring those back to the council for approval. We have about $58,000, almost $59,000 budgeted for the police package vehicles, and right now the chief thinks that he'll be able to purchase all-wheel drive SUV and a sedan, although we've had discussions in the past about trying to get as many SUVs by what the proposals are. So we'll bring it back to the council for consideration after. Votes for, as I said, an SUV as well as a sedan.
Council's pleasure then with authorizing the police department to seek quotes. Motion by Councillor Briggs.
Second.
Second by Councillor Droba. Discussion on the motion or the seeking of quotes for police package patrol vehicles.
Question.
Councillor Droba.
Ken, do you know if any of the vehicles that we currently have on the police force are going to be going towards that new position for the drug task force? Are they going to be using a city vehicle?
Yes. One. It was a SUV. I don't.
Presently, the department has 4 vehicles. Okay. And they'll be trading in some vehicles with regard to this?
Yes, and as he indicated in his memo, he's not clear as to which one he chooses to a surplus and trade it in towards the purchase.
Good. Further questions or discussion with regard to the seeking of quotes? None. Question.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. There being 4 for, 1 against, the motion carries. Department is authorized to seek quotes for the 2 police package patrol vehicles. Thank you. Item number 8 is to approve the Budget and Finance Committee recommendations. Chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, Councillor Droba.
Today at the Budget and Finance Committee, we had a conversation about the 2007 ladder truck from Fire Safety USA, and the discussion led to a vote for us to put forth a down payment of $220,000, and I would move that recommendation to the council at this time.
I'll second.
Motion by Councillor Droba, second by Councillor Jacksaw to place a $220,000 down payment on a 2007 ladder truck from Fire Safety USA. Discussion on the motion or the down payment. Councilor Droba.
I still am uncertain on one piece of this. I understand that we can get financing for it later. I understand that, and this is just a down payment. Am I still mistaken on if we paid a larger down payment, we would incur interest on our money over the course of the time of the down payment? We would still be able to finance later, even in the event that we paid more money towards it, correct? It's all a moot point. I understand that. I'm missing something.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the Fire Safety USA has offered that whatever amount of down payment we attribute to the fire ladder truck, they will apply a 3% reduction in the purchase price of the vehicle at the time that we take delivery. So currently, we're purchasing this fire vehicle. It's currently in use by the City of Eagan. Eagan has contracted with Fire Safety USA to build a new fire truck that's a 100-foot ladder truck for them. Take delivery from Fire Safety of the new 100-foot ladder, that will free up the 75-foot ladder truck that will be available to us, and we're putting a down payment on it. So whatever amount of down payment we apply, they will apply a 3% rate of interest for the number of days that we wait for delivery on that vehicle. In essence, the price of the vehicle will be reduced, and estimated that we'll take delivery on or about December 1st of 2018. If that is the date that we take delivery and you approve this motion tonight, we will get $6,050 off the purchase price of the vehicle, which is the equivalent amount.
And it wouldn't necessarily be true that if we gave them all the money and then the deal fell through that we'd get anything. Because it's a discount on a purchase price, not a return on money put aside like in a bank account. So I think we've hit the appropriate risk here.
Currently, the capital outlay fund for the fire department has, with the $10,000 budgeted in 2018, has a total of $240,000 in it. And so the Budget and Finance Committee is recommending that $220,000 of that amount be applied for this down payment, if you will.
And given the potential discount on the interest, that would leave approximately $221,500 to be financed in December.
The amount is actually $218,950. The $221,000 number includes some legal fees for a legal opinion if we chose the straight-out purchase of the vehicle. If we did an inter-fund transfer, for instance, using other city funds, the amount would be the $218,950, I believe the number is. That assumes we get the $6,050 reduction on the purchase price of the vehicle. If it takes longer, the reduction in price will be higher. If it comes a little bit sooner than
And then I assume that the council has to determine whether or not the 1982 50-foot ladder truck that we have, whether or not it's of value to declare that as surplus property or not.
That's correct, and that's a decision that would be made closer to the time that we would be taking delivery on the 2007 vehicle.
Any further questions or discussions with regard to the motion to make a down payment amount of $220,000 to the Fire Safety USA for the purchase of a 75-foot ladder truck?
Just for the
Councilor
public's
Briggs.
information, I think it's important for them to understand when they see us spending that much money on a new truck, that they should understand that the truck that's being replaced is 36 years old. So it's not, it's served its life. And according to the chief, it would be hard to get parts and everything for it, so it makes sense.
The new one is about $1 million, did you say?
Yep, we could, dollars on a brand new truck, so this,
I think very good point, Councilor Briggs. I don't know what the recommended time life of equipment, but generally I know the Federal Aviation on crash fire rescue vehicle that we have at the Falls International Airport, they want them replaced every 20 years, and we're trying to stretch that out to 25 years. The unit is operating very well. It's been maintained very well. In fact, it was used in the recent fire at Rainy Lake Oil. So I think that it shows that the equipment is still very in good condition. So I think that I don't know if it's 25 years, 30 years, or 35 years, but your point is well made, Councilor Briggs, that this is now 36 years old and it's time to be thinking about replacing it. And the recommendation from the fire department and the Budget and Finance Committee is to go with a used unit, and it's 10 years old, but we believe we can get another 15 to 20 years out of that piece of equipment.
It's also important to note, too, that the city that's getting rid of it isn't getting rid of it because it's served its useful life. They don't want to get rid of it, but because of their needs, they have to go to the 100-foot, correct?
well, correct, and then consolidation of stations as well. They're trading in 3 trucks and getting 1 because they've lost some space and some, trying to get the best bang for the buck, so to speak, out of 1 truck instead of 3.
We're getting a truck that's, in your opinion, and a couple of the members that went with you, in very, very good shape.
Absolutely.
Vote, call the question.
Question is being called for.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion is carried with 4-4 and 1 against. No payment will be made of $220,000 to Fire Safety USA. Thank you. Any other business under new business?
Mr. Mayor?
At the Budget and Finance meeting earlier, yeah, we need to look at the purchase of new turnout gear. Chief Manassa, if you want to come up on that number. Correct me if I'm wrong, there was 22 pieces of turnout gear that got damaged in the fire 2 weeks ago Monday, and we need to replace that.
That's correct. Thank you, Councilor Droba. The fire we had at Rainy Lake Oil, we did contaminate 22 sets of turnout gear. As covered in the Budget and Finance meeting, once the gear is saturated with oil and is no longer compliant for firefighting use, we've looked into cleaner options for cleaning it and cleaners. We cannot get it certified after it's been cleaned. So any saturation of oil basically destroys the gear. So all this new turnout gear we got this summer, of the 32 sets we bought, 22 sets of them need to be replaced. So we've done some research into, I think we've done our due diligence into what we can do as far as cleaning or whatnot, and I think we're just at a dead end. We do have fairly current quotes from the last time we did this, and our best bet is to just go ahead and purchase new. I believe the city administrator and deputy administrator have looked into claiming this as an insurance loss. So we're gonna, I guess, wait and see if we're getting reimbursed for this or what road that takes us down, but we do need to move on this. When we purchased the gear in the summertime, it took about 3 months build time to get it here. The reason it takes so long on the front end of that particular thing is the manufacturers of turnout gear purposely engineer some gaps in their production for situations like this. So hopefully this time around it won't take 3 months. We'll get into one of those emergency production gaps, so we should get it sooner than we did prior.
We only have 10 gear sets on hand at the moment, total.
We have non-compliant backup gear that our firemen are using right now. Not all 22 are non-compliant, but a certain number of that are non-compliant, some are. The purpose of when we bought the 32 sets this summer, that was to have 32 sets of compliant gear, and then we had a handful of turnout gear from previous buys that were still compliant. I think we had 9 sets that were still compliant for backup gear. So that's the situation we're in. We just don't have enough compliant sets right now.
I'm sure you're right. I was just trying to figure out how many we have altogether, because it's about 19 that we have on hand that are compliant. So.
22.
22 that are compliant.
22 got damaged.
22 got damaged. We bought 32. That leaves 10, and we had 9. That's 19 compliant.
Yes.
Okay. That's, I wanted to get an idea. All right.
Councilor Droba.
Of the numbers that we got earlier at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, is that accurate to today, or is that from the last time we purchased?
It is from the last time we purchased. I have some verbal phone conversations with some of our people, and to the best of my knowledge, from those vendors we purchased, they were all verbally at this point going to honor those prices that they gave us this last summer.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion?
Yes. Chair would accept a motion. Councilor Droba.
I would move to purchase the 22 pieces of turnout gear not to exceed $50,000.
Okay, motion by Councilor Droba, second by Councilor Pearson to authorize the fire department to seek the replacement of 22 pair of turnout gear at not more than $50,000. Discussion on the motion.
I would like to add just one point of clarity on those 22 sets that does not include helmets. The helmets were non-damaged. It was all sets of boots, 22 sets of boots, pants, coats, and gloves. So hoods and helmets were in good shape. So just for clarity for the council.
Very good. Further questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
I would point out that a reimbursement or insurance monies was submitted today, so we're hoping that we get full reimbursement through insurance monies for this. And the initial purchase will come out of capital outlay for other improvements for the fire department, which we have over $50,000 in that fund. I believe it's $54,000. So we do have sufficient funds to cover it on a short-term basis.
Okay, further questions or discussion? Chair would then call the question on the vote on the $50,000 authorization to the fire department for replacing 22 sets of fire gear.
Aye.
Aye.
And I would vote yes. Motion is carried and approval is given. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We have one other item of business that we have from Budget and Finance. Did we decide to wait until the 16th on the housing study, or are we going to
Has to go through the EDA.
mediate?
Yeah. And I think the question might be, should the EDA meet prior to the city council meeting so that the city council could then take action? So could we request that the International Falls EDA meet at 3:30?
Mr. Mayor, currently on the 16th of January, which is when our next city council meeting would be, is we do have a budget and finance committee meeting set at 2 o'clock. So if you want to set it at 3:30 or
4 o'clock, that's fine too.
depends on how long.
Take very long.
Well, we might have several items of business on that. Maybe we should try at 3:30.
2 o'clock.
Well, we have 2 o'clock for budget and finance, and so 3:30 for the EDA to meet. I don't know, Steve, will you be able to be at that meeting? Because we could be having discussion on the issue of the property and the multimodal.
I will not, I can appear by telephone, but I'm not going to be in the area.
You've looked at that issue, I think, and so I think it's helpful to have you on telephone if that's possible.
Sure.
So, motion then to have the EDA, you're the president, I guess you can call one too.
Yeah, we'll have one.
Okay,
3:30 on the 16th.
all right. So the International Falls EDA will meet at 3:30. And January 16. Thank you. Further, Councilor Droba from the committee.
Not at this time.
You? Councilor Jackson, you had a point?
No, I was just,
That was the issue?
Yeah.
Thank you. Further under new business? If not, we'll move to reports of boards, committees, and department heads. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. I do want to remind the public that we have a office clerk position that we're advertising for. Information is available there. And we're taking applications up until 4:00 p.m. on January 12th. And then just for the council's information, we have tentative agreements with both the police and the firefighters and paramedics on their labor contract running from 2015 through 20. I don't have anything further.
Very good. Questions for the City Administrator? Thank you. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I sent everybody an email last week on two items. One that I'd like to talk about, and I think the council should take some action on whether or not it wants me to move forward. Our registration, our trademark registration for Icebox of the Nation expires at the end of January. These are good for 10 years. And if we want to renew it, we need to do it before January 29th. It's trademarked under two sections, and it's $425 a section, so the cost would be $850. And I'm happy to move forward with that if that's the pleasure of the council.
Okay, council's pleasure with the renewing the Icebox of the Nation trademark registration in the two sections at $425 each at $850 total. Direction to the City Attorney.
I guess it has value in terms of the fact that we do run a cold box up here, and we want to promote it, so
Is that a motion?
I guess that's a motion, yeah.
Motion by Councilor Jackson
Trying to
to
justify it.
approve the renewal of the trademark registration. Second by Councilor Pearson. Question on the motion or the trademark registration? Councilor Droba.
Not so much on the trademark registration, but on the Icebox of the Nation as a whole. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because everyone knows us as how cold it is here, but that isn't really inviting to, hey, let's go there and visit. Let's go to this small quaint town on the northern Minnesota border of Canada. So I'm okay with having it because it gets our name in the media. I mean, it markets us in so many places, but I think we need to really start looking at how do we market the Icebox of the Nation in the summer, during the thaw or what. I mean, I'm not saying we need to market per se, but it is the Icebox of the Nation. That's what we're known for, but it's truly a double-edged sword.
It is. People think it's 40 below here in July.
I really don't. I think the Convention Visitors Bureau, our Chamber of Commerce, do a great job of getting the information out. And I think there's many folks who come here in the summertime just to visit. I know I was coming into town here last summer, and there was two fellows having their picture taken at the sign out on Highway 53, the International Falls signs. I pulled over and asked them if I could help them, and they said, "Oh, we just want to get our picture taken by the International Falls sign. We're from Texas, and this is our first time up here, and we're just very excited to visit this town, which we hear so much about." So I took their picture so that they could take that back with them to Texas, but they were just very, very pleased. I would tell you last week with regard to the Tuesday night 37 below record that was set, temperature record that was set in the community, had calls from the Reuters News Bureau in Chicago. Also, the New York Times did interviews with those two outfits, and was told by several citizens that it was also mentioned on Fox and Friends, on the Fox News Network, that they were discussing that. Dwayne.
I'd like to add to that, Mayor. Kara Levin called me that day.
Plenty of publicity, to your point, and well, there may be somewhat of a double-edged sword. I think that people hear about us enough that they want to come and see what it's all about. Councilor Briggs.
Unless someone comes forward, they talk about trying to market for the summer, but I would like to hear from some of our lodging folks, but I'm pretty sure they're all full through the summer, and the houseboats and everything else. So I think we're, with the Convention Visitors Bureau and the Chamber, we're getting the people here in the summer, and they've saturated what we have available. And until we start building more infrastructure, I don't know how you're going to get more people to enjoy the lake and everything else.
Well, that's a great point. That is that.
I'm just relaying what people have said to me. Is it cold up there? And this is in July, right? So it does happen, by the way. But,
Well, there are
But they
people
know
that
it.
think that ice is in the
But they
lake
do.
all year round. So.
I mean,
Well, great. Thank you, Dwayne, for that point. Further discussion with regard to the motion then to have the city attorney renew the trademark registration for 10 years at the cost of $850. Hearing none, question.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Approval is given.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other matter that I would talk about, and you've indicated that it's going to be discussed at the EDA meeting that I won't be at, but with regard to Mariner Farms, there, again, as indicated in my email, there's no question in my mind that we have a basis to terminate the development agreement if we choose to. They're in default because they have not proceeded with their wetlands mitigation process. They've started it, but they've never completed it. And we're certainly within our grounds to terminate it. Whether or not we gain anything by terminating it this time is another question. I'm not aware that we have others that are wanting that particular space that we had allotted to them, and I would think it may make sense not to do anything with regard to Mariner Farms until we have somebody else interested in that location. Hopefully they'll turn things around. It doesn't look good at this point, but you never know.
What would the time frame be if we were to go through the process of terminating the agreement?
I think it could be done basically immediately.
Oh.
I mean, there's not a waiting period or anything. I mean, it's well, we can declare it terminated, and
So we don't have a 60 or 90-day waiting period or anything like that?
I don't believe so. I don't have the file with me right in front of me, but I don't recall anything like that. And typically, if you terminate it for cause, you can terminate it tomorrow.
I think given the financial or lack of financial ability of Mariner Farms, I don't see, in fact, I think there's going to be additional lawsuits with regard to that firm, and so I really think that no point in putting hope against hope.
I guess we're not, there's no downside not to terminate it. I guess it's just a question of, what the pleasure of the council is. I guess it may make a statement that if potential developers don't follow through on their agreements, we terminate them. We don't just let them hang out there forever. I mean, there's something to be said for that, I guess.
Well, and I think, we were subject of a article in the regional newspaper that they do have land tied up in International Falls. So I'm not sure how much value or poor publicity that is, but it's certainly not good.
I would be available at the EDA meeting by telephone to answer any other questions that you may have.
Very good. Assume that'll be on the agenda.
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, City Attorney. Questions for the City Attorney? Thank you. We'll move to department heads. Chief, did you have something further? You got a report for us?
Thank you, Mayor. Report of runs for the month of December. We had 6 fire department call-outs. 4 of those were within the city and 2 were rural responses. A couple 3 carbon monoxide calls in that time, investigated gas smell. Then we had 4 CN train fills. Monthly fire meeting was on the 21st of December with a relief meeting, short relief meeting, and a regular business meeting. Then we also had a roof prop ventilation trailer up here from the state. It was very nice training. Everything went well on that. It was nice to do something different. Worked out very well. Ambulance for the month of December, we had 88 911s, 52 transfers for a total of 140 runs. Our monthly meeting and training was on the 13th of December with a regular business meeting then. I included a few year-end statistics on this one, and then I have the comparisons from the previous few years as well. So for the fire department total for 2017, we had 68 total department responses. 34 were in the city and 34 were in the rural. I think that's the first time since I've been on that's been cut right down the middle, but worked out nicely, I guess, this year. In comparison to 2016, we had 49 fires and 50 in 2015, so we're up a little bit. In 2017, for the ambulance, we had a total of 1,473 ambulance runs, 924 911s, and 549 transfers. So we are down a little bit compared to 16. Total numbers are down a little bit, but the interesting one I like to draw out of that anyway is our 911s were pretty close from last year. We're really down on the transfer side versus the 911 side. And then the last page is just I like to put that on there. What our run disposition was for the ambulance and percentage of runs. And really the big thing I like to draw out of that is we had 755 ALS runs and 558 BLS runs, so kind of a nice side-by-side comparison there.
185 ALS?
755 ALS and 558 BLS.
Here, may I?
Please.
I was just looking, the ambulance has been on our mind lately in meetings, but I was looking at the financials through the end of the year. And for the ambulance fund, and for the month, we were a negative 19,000, but for the year, we're a negative 279. And even though you subtract out the capital outlay costs, we're still at a $100,000 loss for the year. I mean, part of that $279,000 loss is $177,000 in capital outlay. So discounting that, pulling it out of there. Not counting the cost of capital to buy trucks, etc. We're losing just on operations through the end of the year.
I'm not sure what numbers you're currently looking at. Our credit and balance sheet that I received through the end of November, we have $642,000 due back to us.
Yeah, but that wouldn't affect the income statement unless you're doing a cash basis. I don't know.
Can you really
But it would
term
go
it a
back
loss? Counselor. I mean, certainly, for the year, it would show, but that if we're carrying 600,000 plus,
If that's been booked as revenue already,
well, it wouldn't be booked until it's received.
Right.
is that we're cash basis in the enterprise fund, are we?
I would,
I don't think it's included.
Okay. To me, this is an enterprise fund. It should be anyway, but
I think that this
Well, but wait a
conversation is
minute, wait a
best
minute.
served at a Budget and Finance Committee meeting, rather than a monthly report.
I want to bring it up now. So there you go, okay. The 662,000 sitting in receivables, cannot just add 662,000 in receivables, because if you're going to follow the cash basis, you carry, if we're going to do cash basis accounting, you're going to continually carry a receivable balance. So so you can't put the whole 662 and say, well, this loss doesn't exist, because you know what?
I understand what you're getting at,
Yeah.
and I do know what you're saying, but we haven't received our last quarter Medicare payments or anything, so.
Okay.
The 642 we're carrying through, I mean, we might get, I don't know, I don't even know. If we get 400,000 of it, that's still not reflected on those papers yet.
I'm just a little worried, that's all. I'm going to go on the record and say I'm concerned about this, so.
I don't think it's a fair comparison. I mean, I think that there's certainly funds outstanding.
I just explained.
Insurance and Medicare payments take time.
December's not in yet.
But if you always carry a large receivable balance and you're going to follow the cash basis, you cannot add 662 into the revenues. Doesn't make any sense.
I think that's a fair statement.
And
But-
not only that, you can take 66,000 of that and say we're never going to collect it because of the 90%.
Well, I think that's subjective.
Estimate.
That's subjective.
It's not, it's history. According to your fire chief, that's what we write off, about 10%.
Yeah, of the money collectible.
Right.
So there's two different things there. So if we bill out $1 million for easy numbers, we get about 46% of that, which is 91% of collectible money. So our collectible money might only be $470,000 of that $1 million. We're not taking in 91% of $1 million, we're taking in 91% of our collectible money.
So what does the 662 represent? Just the collectible?
The 642 right now is on our balance sheet that we're carrying over from our billing company. So that's money out there right now that has not come back in yet.
Oh, it's collectible.
That's billable.
Billable, and it's been reduced by the
Yes.
Medicare write-off?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
There's about 7 lines on that balance sheet. So there's bad debt recovery, there's revenue recaptures included in there. There's, like I said, about 7 lines on that all those factors get factored into there. That number is a running total, much as you said there. So as the year progresses, that starts off as a small number, and near the end of the year, that gets larger and larger and larger. And then about in February, that'll reset is not the right word, but it'll kind of bump back down again and then start that 12-month cycle again.
Let me ask you, are you comfortable with where we are? I guess maybe it goes really to
Yes.
that. Okay, if you're comfortable, then I'm trusting your expertise, because I certainly don't understand the ambulance industry. But
Councilor Briggs.
Back to your fires, but the numbers shot up to 58. It concerns me a little bit because of the recent fires on the range that have fatalities and what's going on in New York. Have you seen anything that stands out to you that might help us prevent? Because that's our main goal is prevention. And
In our
there's something
community-
that we should be advertising to help prevent some of that, because if it's going up, it tells me maybe we're not doing something right.
In our community specifically, I haven't seen why we've trended up this year. I don't know, other than it's just an anomaly. I think some of it is a little bit better tracking on our side, maybe considering some things, going to runs preemptively, things like that. On a statewide, we are also up on fire deaths in the state. We've kind of similar numbers. I think we're 13 over what we were last year for fire deaths in the state. And I don't know that factored in Hibbing and Ely the other night either. So it's kind of a disturbing trend statewide. I don't really know what the reason is. I know Hibbing, after their incident here last week, one of their big safety messages was smoke alarms, working smoke alarms. That's good statewide. I mean, I would tell our citizens the same thing. Make sure the smoke alarms are working, test them, make sure they're in place, batteries are working, CO alarms for us, always good things. We have a very good smoke alarm program in our fire department. We get smoke alarms given to us by the Red Cross, so as long as we can track those going out, we can get more coming in to get out into the community, so that's certainly something we like to push. We got another shipment here a month ago, another, 140 more smoke alarms, so we've gone through quite a few smoke alarms this year already. Our previous shipment was 200, so we've put out a lot of smoke alarms into the community. It's awareness and fire prevention, part of our whole message in October. And
that was my concern, is maybe it's complacency on people. Not enough advertising to get it in front of them to change the batteries and do what they got to do to keep their smoke alarms up to date and everything else.
I would be interested to see the yearly report when it comes out on why we're up this. Like I said, it's a statewide trend, and I'm not sure why. So I'd like to see if they can target
Share that with us when you get that.
I will do that.
And Chief, do you break down the reasons for the 68 fires that you had, and some of them I'm sure were vehicle fires and so forth, but do you have causes for each of those? Are you able to determine causes?
Yep, I can run reports through that. Again, nothing this year really stands out as unique or well, there's no specific cause this year that stands out to me. I'll leave it at that. I was going to go a little deeper, but I'm going to not do that. Yeah, I mean, no specific cause standing out.
I don't want you to speculate. I just was here the other evening for the Fire Relief Association meeting and did see the fireman training, and it was a cold night. It was a blustery night that they were up on the roof of that building and training, and great to see folks willing to do that kind of training in that kind of sub-zero weather.
Absolutely. We have excellent crews on both sides, fire and ambulance.
Mayor, I have to compliment them too when you're talking about what they're out there in that freezing temperatures. When they were out on the ice over by my place on the river at 9 o'clock at night, trying to do, practicing rescues on the ice out in the river, that's got to be a little scary for somebody that's never done it before too.
Absolutely.
Jump in the freezing cold water and try and save somebody.
Outside of the finances too, I want to relay, I'm sure you heard from Sharon Koscheck about the rescue that she received from the ambulance department.
Yes, I did speak
Highly
at
complimentary
Yep.
to both the ambulance department and the police department. She said it was really terrific, highly efficient, reassuring, professional. She felt she was in good hands, saved her life. So thank you.
I love hearing those compliments,
Yeah.
and I pass those on to the individuals involved in that, and I did speak with Sharon at length, and like I said, very appreciative. Everything worked out well for her, and
No matter what the ambulance costs when you need it, it's...
Absolutely.
We have a great service, and thank you to you and all of the members of both departments for your efforts in 2017.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other department heads came, well, you wouldn't get so grilled. We had nobody else to question.
Yeah, taking the heat tonight.
That's all right.
Go to, thank you, Chief, and we'll go to reports of the mayor, council committees, boards, and commissions. Councilor Droba.
I would just like to reiterate, it came up earlier in the meeting that next 2 weeks from today, we have a 2 o'clock budget finance meeting. Tuesday, I believe it's the 16th. Secondly, I just want to give a real shout out and a lot of respect for all of our emergency services 2 weeks ago for the fire at Rainy Lake Oil. That was a a big deal, lots of national attention, and that's not what it's about. It's about you guys went in, you guys did what you had to do. Nobody got hurt, and tons of respect for what you guys do.
Thank you. Of course, a tragedy for Mr. Keith, but that.
And minimal environmental damage for something with all the chemicals and oils and lubricants that were in that building, so.
I sent personal thank yous to the mayor of Little Fork and the mayor of Fort Francis for their mutual aid support. Thank you for coordinating both of those fire departments along with yours and the Falls International Airport. So tough job out there. Thank you for that.
Definitely a team effort.
The only other item I would like to bring up, and that's Councilor Droba and I were at the DARE graduation for the sixth graders from International Falls School District. Want to give a personal thanks to Police Officer Dane Olson for his efforts in working with those sixth grade students and having that graduation. Chief Masson, Captain Lynch, and Sergeant Lessard from the Falls Police Department, as well as Sheriff Headland and Chief Deputy Fromke were all in attendance at that, along with probably, 100, 150 parents and grandparents. So it was great. It was a great graduation and wonderful opportunity for the police officers, law enforcement to be involved in community activity. Further, under council committees, boards, and commissions? Hearing none, move to the audience. Again, anyone in the audience that wishes to bring something to the attention of the council? Councilor Droba.
Actually, I have one last thing. It's just something that popped in my head as I was looking at the end of our agenda. Last year, following the Martin Luther King holiday, we had a young lady from our community come up and ask us to put in a resolution on the Martin Luther King holiday, and I think that we could be a little bit proactive this year and maybe have a resolution available for our next meeting.
Good catch. That's a good catch.
Okay, we'll see if we can secure a resolution for the City Council's consideration. That, there's nothing further to come before the council. The next council meeting will be on Tuesday, January 16th, because of the Martin Luther King holiday on Monday, January the 15th, so we'll meet at 4:30. There's nothing further to come before the council at this time. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you.